Geodude has been on my redo list for a long time. So today, once again, I'm going to beat Pokemon Yellow with only a Geodude, and I expect this to be fairly painful. After all, Geodude's closest analog is Rhyhorn, and currently it has the last spot in the E tier, with a time of 1 hour, 28 minutes, and 54 seconds. Now, these two Pokemon share the same typing. I know they're technically switched. Rhyhorn is a primary ground typing, whereas Geodude is a primary rock typing. However, that has no meaningful impact on the playthrough. But what does have a meaningful impact on the playthrough is their base stat distributions. For Geodude, it has 40 HP, 80 attack, 100 defense, 30 special, and 20 speed. Honestly, it just got the short stick in all of its stats. For example, Rhyhorn has 80 HP, that is twice what Geodude's is. It has 85 attack, 5 more than Geodude. It does have 95 defense, so Geodude wins out there, but defense really isn't the stat you need when you're a rock type. Both of them share 30 in their special stat, and Rhyhorn, believe it or not, is faster than Geodude with 5 more base speed. What this boils down to is that Misty is going to be incredibly hard in the early game, and even Erika in the mid game is likely going to cause some problems. However, not everything is bad for Geodude, because where Rhyhorn is a slow growth rate Pokemon, Geodude is a medium slow growth rate Pokemon, and this is the best growth rate for solo challenges. Pokemon with it level up fastest in the early game, and that's really important for Geodude because the first trainer I have to go up against is Brock, and I don't really have a good answer for him. Yes, I am a rock type and I resist his normal type moves, but Tackle is not going to be particularly good against his rock type Pokemon. Now, because there are no TMs available in the early game, I'm going to have to rely exclusively on level up moves for this first major battle, and I think there are 2 strategies that could work. The first one is level up enough that I can use Defense Curl in combination with Tackle to defeat Brock. Because of how much health his Pokemon have, I'm going to need to be doing 2 damage per hit, and I anticipate that Geodude is going to start getting that range around level 13 or 15. The other potential strategy is level up to level 16 where Geodude learns Rock Throw. Because the rock type does not resist itself, this move is going to be dealing neutral damage, and with the same type attack bonus, Geodude's Rock Throw will be an effective power of 75, which is much better than Tackle's roughly 18 effective power. Both of these strategies require me to level Geodude up significantly in the early game. And that is not a problem at all because the rock typing essentially makes it invincible until I start seeing special moves. By the way, the first Pokemon that have special moves are found in Mount Moon on this Lass's team. It's 2 grass type Pokemon. However, she's an optional trainer, so I can just skip her. The first mandatory battle that Geodude's going to have to go up against a special move in is against the Lass just before Bill's house. So I don't have to worry about taking very much damage now. What I do have to worry about though is choosing the strategy that I'm going to use against Brock. After defeating all of the early game trainers, my Geodude is level 14, so I figured that I'd go back to the forest, train up to level 15, and then attempt Brock at this level. If I'm unsuccessful, then I can level up one more time to 16, get Rock Throw, and take a much easier victory. The battle starts off with Geodude against Geodude. Now here I objectively made a bad decision. I set up Defense Curl a total of 4 times, when after just 1 I was taking a single hit point of damage for each one of Brock's attacks. Funnily enough, Brock's Geodude has much more attack than his Onix, so this is the Pokemon that is going to deal the most damage to me. And that is saying a lot because I get it to red health and I am still in the green. Then my Geodude gets a critical hit, which is quite rare because Geodude only has around a 4% chance to score these. After all, in Generation 1, the Pokemon's critical hit chance is determined by their base speed. Obviously, the higher the better, the lower the worse. Next, Brock sends in Onix. Now here I have Defense Curl to stall out Bide whenever he uses it. However, I am slower than Onix, which does mean every time he chooses this move, I will attack into him at least once and take some damage. However, because Onix is a rock type, I'm doing so little damage to it that taking some damage from Bide isn't very bad. And after what is quite an extended fight, my Geodude takes the Onix out and gets a victory at level 15. Alright, so Brock really wasn't that bad. I got a sub 10 minute split here. However, my next split is going to be quite far away. First of all, I have to prepare for that first special battle just before Bill's house that I mentioned before. I had an absolutely nightmare time against her when I used Omanyte for the very first time around 3 years ago, and so I anticipate that Geodude might have similar problems against her. However, even once she's defeated, Misty is the second gym leader, and there's no way to face Surge without facing her first. That's because the Cascade badge gives you access to cut outside of battle. The main problem facing Misty is going to be Geodude's speed. Because Misty has good AI, her Staryu as well as her Starmie are both always going to choose water-type moves. That means the Staryu is going to be locked into Water Gun, and the Starmie is going to randomize between Water Gun and Bubble Beam. And here's where I want to direct all of your eyes down to the bottom left. Geodude still has less than 20 speed, and it is level 17. Misty's Staryu has 38 speed, and her Starmie has 56 speed. This means that under basically no circumstances is Geodude going to be able to go first against both of her Pokemon. Obviously, I could train to like level 45 and then move first, but that does not seem like a good investment of time. So right now my target for Geodude is to get it to 39 speed. In order to do that, I'm going to face all of the trainers on Route 3. By the way, there are quite a few bugs on this route, which Rock Throw does a lot of damage against. However, I will point out that this move has 65% accuracy in Generation 1. So while it's nice to have more damage, overall it is very inconsistent. In Mount Moon, I continue fighting optional trainers. The only one here that I skip is the last that has the special attackers. I grab the TM for Mega Punch, which is a fantastic upgrade to Tackle. Yes, it has lower accuracy, but it does more than double the damage. I finish off the Fossil Nerd, grab myself the Dome Fossil, and then defeat Jesse and James. So now I am on my way to Cerulean City, and Geodude only has 25 speed. This stat is pulling slightly ahead of what Geodude's level is, so I'll probably be able to outspeed Misty's Staryu around level 36 to 38. Okay, so let's continue gaining experience points. Obviously, I'm going to face the rival on Nugget Bridge first. This fight is going to be quite easy for Geodude, even though the Sandshrew can be quite annoying with Sand Attack. The reason is, in this fight, the rival in Pokemon Yellow only has normal type damage dealing moves, so Geodude essentially can take no damage here. During the battles on Nugget Bridge, Geodude has a chance to learn Harden. I find these design choices by the developers really strange. Geodude can learn both Defense Curl and Harden, whereas a Pokemon like Rhyhorn can learn both Tail Whip and Leer. My personal theory about this, which I have mentioned before on the channel, is that Defense Curl, Harden, and Acid Armor were 3 defense boosting moves. Defense Curl boosted your defense by 1 stage, Harden would boost it by 2 stages, and then Acid Armor would boost it by 3 stages. Then the developers realized during development that this would make these moves too broken, and they scaled them back. I find it really far-fetched that they would develop 2 moves that have the identical effects. Okay, so let's catch up with my playthrough. I've finished off all of the other trainers on this route, and I am now ready to take on the last with the Oddish. Luckily for me, Absorb doesn't do very much damage because I am so significantly overleveled. On the next turn, I hit with Mega Punch, and it successfully one-hits. I take Pidgey down in a single hit, and she sends in her final Oddish. Even if Mega Punch misses once, though, I am going to win. So I didn't need to be worried about that battle at all. Outside of Cerulean City, I defeat the Rocket and get the TM for Dig. Now you might think that I should teach this to Geodude right away. However, Geodude is at level 29, and at level 31 it is going to get Earthquake. In Generation 1, both Earthquake and Dig have the exact same base power. However, Earthquake takes only 1 turn, so it wastes less frames. Also, teaching Dig to Geodude would mean that I would have to unlearn it later on, and I don't want to do that because Dig is a useful field move, which helps me get through these playthroughs faster. Remember that you can dig out of Sylph, Pokemon Mansion, Sabrina's Gym, and Blaine's Gym. Okay, so on Route 6, I want to mention something that I very rarely do, which is fighting the optional trainers here. For most Pokemon, minimum battles make sense here, but for Geodude, I need as much experience as I can get. On the SSN, I grab the TM for Body Slam and I teach it to Geodude in the place of Bide. And then I continue my training here because very soon I'm going to get access to Earthquake. However, before that, I am going to pick up the TM for Rest because I anticipate that this will be useful later on in the run. However, to do this, I have to defeat a Sailor, and he has a Staryu which is the same level as Misty's Staryu. I easily knock out his Tentacool on the first turn, however, it did confuse me. Staryu comes out, obviously outspeeds, hits Water Gun, gets a critical hit, and knocks Geodude out. I did not save very recently. So in this case, I am just going to take the blackout, let all my HM users faint, and get teleported all the way back to Cerulean City. While this does waste some time, it wastes a lot less than if I had reset. Okay, so instead of heading back to the SSN, I'm going to face all of the trainers on the route east of Diglett's Tunnel. And it is here that Geodude finally learns Earthquake in the place of Mega Punch. Now at level 31, I have 33 speed, so it's looking like around level 37 I'm going to have enough to face Misty. I wanted to face all of the trainers in this area for the maximum possible experience, and that does mean that I'm going to fight this Gambler. I'm saving before him because he has 2 Water-type Pokemon. First up is Poliwag. It moves first using Hypnosis, putting Geodude to sleep, and then spams Bubble, finishing me off. Okay, so once again, a difficult water-type Pokemon. I'm just gonna head back to Vermilion City Pokemon Center and heal up. I make it back to the Sailor in the SS Anne. When his Staryu doesn't get a critical hit with Water Gun, it does less than half, and I'm able to finish it off with Body Slam. I defeat the remaining trainers and then go up against the rival. At level 35, my Geodude has 37 speed, so if I get really lucky, when I level up to 36, I will get 2 speed and be able to face Misty. Now, I've defeated all the trainers in the SS Anne, so there are only 3 trainers remaining in this area that I can fight. The 2 people back on Route 6, one with a Cubone, one with a Weepinbell, and the Gambler who I faced earlier. I figured that getting revenge would feel a lot better, so I face him again. This time the Poliwag uses Bubble right away, doing very little, and my Body Slam finishes it off. Horsey hits me with Bubble as well, but it's not doing anywhere near enough. Now to finish off the level, I'm going to fight some Diglets in the tunnel, just so that I get the maximum possible speed stat experience. And then, when Geodude levels up to 36, it has finally reached 39 speed. So now, at long last, I am ready to face Misty. I've planned for this fight, so Geodude moves first against the Staryu and easily knocks it out with a single Earthquake. However, this is where things get bad, because I'm pretty sure the Starmie is just going to one-hit me if it chooses Bubble Beam. Misty chooses not to attack and instead use an X defend, which does mean that Earthquake is going to do less damage. However, Geodude really comes through with its 3.19% chance to crit and knocks the Starmie out with a single hit. I honestly could not believe that when I did this playthrough. What are the odds? I was so certain that even with all my preparation, I would have many resets against Misty. So surprisingly, Geodude makes it past her without any additional resets. And believe me, it is not going to get any more against the next gym leader. Now before I fight him, I'm going to mention the fact that I train against all of the trainers in his gym. This is something I do even less often than fighting the trainers on Route 6. It's worth mentioning why I am doing this right now after clearing Geodude's first major threat. And the reason is quite simple. I have to prepare for so many rough battles in the late game. Giovanni has 4 Pokemon that know Earthquake, the rival in Sylph and on Route 6 has a Cloyster that knows Clamp. This move is absolutely terrifying when you're using a Pokemon that is weak to it, because trapping moves in Generation 1 do not allow you to move until they have finished. And then after I get past all of those battles, Geodude has to go up against Lorelei, who is going to be quite difficult because she has 4 Water-type Pokemon. And then after all of that, things do not get much better. Lance leads with Gyarados that has Hydro Pump, and finally the champion has a Cloyster and it still knows Clamp. So as a result, Geodude is going to have to invest a lot of time in training throughout the mid-game. Now I realize here I did not narrate Surge at all. Obviously he was completely trivial. And the notable battles continue to be trivial for Geodude. I get 1-hits against all of the Rapping Lasses Pokemon, all of the Pokemaniacs Pokemon, and all of the self-destructing Hikers Pokemon. I continue training on Route 8, make my way into Celadon City, explore the hideout, grabbing the extra rare candy here, and then I head to the department store because I can do 2 notable things here. First of all, I can grab the TM for Rock Slide, which is going to be much better than Rock Throw, and after that I can buy vitamins. All of the optional training that I have done until this point in the game has a payoff here because I have more money, so I can buy a total of 7. For Geodude, I buy 4 Carbos to improve its speed, and 3 Protein to improve its damage. The reason I didn't max out one of its stats right away is just because I want to pick up the vitamins that are freely available to me in the overworld. The rival is not yet difficult for Geodude in Pokemon Tower. I take a very easy victory here. I do want to mention while this fight is happening that I realized for the very first time ever that the rival just boxes his Fearow after this fight, and he doesn't have 6 team members for the fight in Sylph. Now I love the fan conjecture about how his Raticate died on the SS Anne and he's here to bury it. That's why he wouldn't have 6 team members in this fight, so I find it interesting why no one has come up with a theory for Pokemon Yellow as to why his Fearow disappears. Let me know in the comments if you have some flavorful idea. The Chandler on the next floor is actually really easy for Geodude because all of my training and the Carbos has given me enough speed to move first against the ghosts. Throughout the rest of Pokemon Tower, I fight all of the optional trainers to gain as much experience as is possible, and then I easily take a victory over Jesse and James. As you will have expected, I continue my training on Cycling Road, defeating all of the trainers here. Now during the Safari Zone, I realized that my Geodude has 55 speed, and it is about to level up. Koga's last Venonat has 56 speed, so I'm going to be moving first against all of them, and I have super effective damage with Rock Slide, so I think it makes the most sense to face him next. The only flaw Geodude has with its strategy against Koga right now is the fact that Rock Slide could miss. I do get the one hit on his first Venonat, but then on the second one Rock Slide misses and I have to take a Psychic. However, it only does about a quarter and then I finish the Venonat off with my next hit. Okay, so will the third Venonat survive? And the answer is no. So on its first attempt, Geodude has made it all the way to Koga's Venomoth. Now this thing is obviously going to be very strong against Geodude, its Psychic hits like a truck, and it is a Water Grass type. However, Koga has a chance to use an X attack, and this is what he does for the Venomoth. My Rock Slide connects, and it knocks it out. So with only 2 resets, Geodude has earned itself the 4th badge. Yes, I did fight Koga 4th. I am saving Erika until way later in the playthrough because I don't want to deal with 4 times damage. However, I still do have a choice where I want to go next. I could go to Pokemon Mansion and then fight Blaine, or I could head to Sylph. And that is what I ended up deciding on for this playthrough. Of course, in here, I'm going to continue my optional training, but Geodude is leveling up slower now. I only get it to level 51, and then I decide that now is the time to face the rival. With most Pokemon, I go into this fight around level 40 or 43, so I think Geodude is not going to have any problems here. At the start of the fight, I set up 2 defense curls. This is a mistake because I'm about to level up and lose all my badge boosts. Earthquake 1 hits the Sandslash, next is Cloyster. Without any additional badge boosts, Rock Slide knocks it out. Magneton's next, and obviously it has nothing that threatens Geodude, so I take my time here to set up 2 more defense curls, and this lets me outspeed the following Kadabra with 87 speed. All that's left is a Flareon, and of course I one-hit it, so that was a very easy battle. In Pokemon Mansion, I collect vitamins as well as 2 rare candies, and then I head into Blaine's gym where I fight all of the optional trainers. By the way, I will note here that in Yellow version, you do have to answer the question first before you fight the trainer. You can't just talk to them like in Red and Blue. After this training, Geodude is level 55 to take on Blaine. Now, while I am slower, I resist all of his attacks, and Earthquake is super effective, so this fight is not actually an issue. Well, unless the Rapidash traps me forever with Fire Spin. However, there is no Generation 1 AI that knows that it can trap you in these moves so that it'll constantly spam them. In this case, Blaine just chooses his moves randomly, so eventually the Rapidash will stop hitting Geodude, or Fire Spin will just miss. This move has absolutely trash accuracy. Earthquake hits, I knock the Rapidash out. All that's left is Arcanine. Now it does use Fire Blast, its most powerful fire type move, and this is special. However, Geodude resists it, hangs on with 20 hit points, hits Earthquake, and Arcanine goes down. So I fought Blaine before Sabrina specifically because I wanted the Volcano badge, which boosts my special stat, and I also figured that Blaine was safer just because of my type advantage and all the trainers in his gym. However, I can't delay any longer. If I want access to Giovanni's gym, I need to face Sabrina now. The problem in this fight is that Geodude is just so slow. Even her lead Abra is faster. That allows it to get in a quick flash, blinding Geodude and lowering its accuracy. Next is Kadabra. Sabrina uses an X-Defend on it, Earthquake hits, and it still does enough damage. Alakazam is last, and I'm pretty sure Geodude will survive a regular Psychic. However, I'm sure it'll go down if it gets a critical hit. But in this case, Alakazam chooses Psywave, one of the worst moves in the game. It does a total of 4 hit points of damage. Then Geodude's Earthquake connects and knocks Sabrina's ace out. Now, Editor Scott here, I did just previously say that I need to defeat Sabrina to gain access to Giovanni's gym, but I actually need to defeat Erika first to gain access to Giovanni's gym, because in this case, I put her off as long as is possible. By the way, I do defeat all of the trainers in her gym just for some extra experience. Like I said before, I really need to prepare for Lorelei and the Gyarados on Lance's team. However, it should go without stating that a level 57 Geodude is not going to have problems against Erika. I can one-hit all of her Pokemon. With 7 badges, I can now gain access to Giovanni's gym and train against all of the gym trainers here, bringing Geodude almost up to level 59 before I face Giovanni. Now, as I exit the gym and head back to the Pokemon Center to heal, I just want to mention that Giovanni is going to be rough. The only Pokemon on his team that does not know Earthquake is the Persian, and it knows Double Team as well as Slash, which always gets a critical hit due to its base speed. Now, all of Giovanni's Pokemon are faster than Geodude with the exception of the Rhydon, but it does have impressive defense, and I doubt that Earthquake is going to knock it out in a single hit. Okay, so with all of the threats clearly explained, now let's go into the fight and see how Geodude does. Up first is Dugtrio. It has Dig, Earthquake, and Fissure, all moves that'll do a lot of damage. It goes for Dig in this case, gets a critical hit, and takes Geodude down from full health to red. So that is not a good way for this battle to start. Persian goes for Screech, lowering my defense. That's basically useless. Luckily, Geodude can knock it out in a single hit. However, up next are the Nidos. Luckily for me, Giovanni uses a guard spec on the Nidoqueen. By the way, Giovanni has a 25% chance to use the guard spec. So maybe he's going to use one on the Nidoking that follows. However, in this case, he doesn't. Nidoking uses Earthquake and Geodude goes down. Okay, let's try a different approach. Because the Dugtrio used Dig, which is a 2-turn move, maybe I can get set up with Defense Curl on it, minimizing the damage throughout the rest of the fight. Without a critical hit and with +1 defense, Dig only does a quarter, which is really encouraging. However, spending time facing this thing comes with a risk, because it is faster than Geodude, allowing it to use Fissure and get the knockout. Okay, maybe setting up here once and then knocking the Dugtrio out is the safest play. Then against the Persian, I can continue my Defense Curl setup, preparing for the Nidos and the Rhydon. Now because the Persian is spamming Screech, it is also helping badge boost me, and I'm watching my speed in this instance. I want to be faster than the Nidoking so that I can attack first. I set up one more time going up to +3, and then I knock the Persian out. Nidoqueen and Nidoking are both 1-hits because I am faster than both of them, and then on the Rhydon, Earthquake also gets a 1-hit. So Geodude has done it, it has defeated all of the gym leaders. However, it is worth stating that I think the easiest portion of the game is done. Now I expect things to get difficult. Of the final battles, one of the easier ones is coming up next though. The rival on Route 22 is not particularly scary for Geodude because the Sandslash does not yet know Earthquake. As it knows only Poison and Normal type moves, I can set up Defense Curl here a little bit for free. I go to +2, knock it out with 2 Earthquakes, and move on to the Execute. For it, I choose Rock Slide because it has the most damage, but Execute just barely survives on red health and then seeds Geodude, which is quite annoying. Now I figured that against the following Cloyster I would be able to knock it out, however, it also just barely survives. Luckily it goes for Aurora Beam, however it lowers my attack, Rock Slide misses, and Clamp knocks Geodude out. I hope you spotted what the major problem was in that fight. I leveled up right after the Sandslash, which reset my attack badge boosts. Without them, I was not able to one-shot both the Execute and the Cloyster. So I head back to the Fuchsia City Beach, where there are 2 trainers that are quite easy to access. These give me enough experience to get to level 60, and that should change the math against the rival. Now because I know that I'm not going to level up on the Sandslash, I can also set up Defense Curl more, so I go all the way up to +4 before I knock the Sandslash out with a single hit. Rock Slide doesn't miss the Execute, it also does not miss the Cloyster, securing the 1-hit, and then Earthquake 1-hits the Magneton. From here, I have badge boosted my speed enough to move first against both the Kadabra and the Flareon, so with only one small change, Geodude turned a difficult fight into an easy victory. To this point in the playthrough, the player has access to 11 rare candies. By the way, there are 13 in total in the game, but there are only over 12 that you can access during a solo playthrough, just because the final rare candy is hidden in Cerulean Cave. However, in this case with Geodude, I'm going to make the additional trip all the way to the power plant to pick up 1 extra rare candy. In recent days, I've actually been thinking about this candy. I timed it out and it takes roughly 40 seconds to obtain it, which is not that bad. Obtaining the candy in the hideout takes roughly 30 seconds, but it does have the additional advantage that there is 1 mandatory rocket that you have to fight, so you do earn some experience with this time investment. However, I'm starting to think that slow growth rate Pokemon as well as weak first stage Pokemon will benefit from grabbing the power plant candy, because doing the training this late into the game is going to take more than 40 seconds to obtain 1 level. So now I have 12 rare candies, Geodude is level 61, so I could boost it all the way to level 73, but I'm going to be a little bit conservative because I want to save some rare candies to use mid-league, just to ensure that I don't end up mid-battle leveling up and losing my badge boosts. So let's see if Lorelei is possible at level 70. As the battle is starting, I want to say that I targeted this level just because Rhyhorn beat her at this level, so I figured that Geodude is pretty similar and it's likely going to be able to do it here as well. I use Rock Slide on the Dugong and I get a 1-hit. Next is Cloyster, I go for Rock Slide, it just barely does not get the 1-hit, however it triggers Lorelei to use a Super Potion, so I knock it out on the next turn. I am moving on to the Slowbro without taking any damage, this is perfect. I go for Earthquake, it takes it to orange, and then Slowbro uses Surf and knocks Geodude out in a single hit. That really was not encouraging, so I decided to level up 2 more times because then I can be level 75 if I use all my rare candies. I also went to the department store to check if I could use any more vitamins, but no, I can't in this situation. To train ahead to Victory Road, there are these 2 cool trainers that I figure I can beat with my really over-leveled Geodude. However, Earthquake fails to knock his Kingdra out, then it goes for Crab Hammer and knocks Geodude out with a critical hit. Alright, that was unfortunate. Let's face the other cool trainer instead. She has the Victory Bell line, but in this case it isn't fast enough to move first, so Earthquake sweeps her team. After that, I face the guy with the water types again and take my revenge. I fight more trainers here to level up from 61 to 62, and then eventually 63, and then I can use my rare candies and attempt Lorelei again. The increase of levels has made things more consistent because now I can one-hit her first 2 Pokemon and move on to the Slowbro every time with full health. Also, Earthquake is doing more damage to Slowbro, which puts it at red health. This gives Lorelei a chance to use a Super Potion, which she does here, and I finish it off. By the way, I just need to get by the first turn against the Slowbro. On the second turn, it will always use Withdraw because it is a water type move, and she has an AI modification that forces her to set up on the second turn. So on the first turn, if I increase the likelihood that she uses a Super Potion, I decrease overall the chance that Geodude gets hit by Surf. After all, she can also just randomize and use Withdraw on the first turn. So overall, I like my odds here. Okay, so I'm facing the Jinx. Obviously, you saw that it hit me with Ice Punch once, and then my Rock Slide misses, so it hits me with Ice Punch again, and Geodude faints. That's honestly quite a frustrating loss. When doing this playthrough, I just didn't want to deal with more resets against Lorelei, so I leveled up more and fight her again at level 78. This still doesn't give me the one-hit range against the Slowbro, she just uses a Super Potion again. However, against Jinx, it is not able to do half damage to me with Ice Punch, so it can no longer 2-hit. This makes things a little bit more consistent in case Rock Slide misses, and then I can make it to the Lapras. Now, I wasn't sure if this was going to one-hit because Lapras has decent defense and it has a lot of HP. However, in this case, Rock Slide does enough, and so I am moving on to one of the weakest trainers in the game. If you are new here, he is very obviously a hiker because he has rock and fighting type Pokemon, and yeah, Geodude just sweeps through all of them with ease. It even one-hits the Machamp, and this thing usually survives. Now, if you play a lot of Generation 3, you're probably thinking that Agatha is going to be quite difficult. However, Pokemon don't have abilities in Generation 1 and 2, so none of the ghosts have Levitate, meaning Earthquake is super effective against all of them, and this fight is completely trivial as a result. I guess trivial isn't the best word. The Arbok actually does paralyze me. Things get very annoying against it, but eventually I'm able to knock it out and move on to Lance. Alright, I have arrived here with 112 speed. That is enough to move first against the Gyarados. So I guess level 78 against Lorelei was required. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been able to move first here. However, on the first turn, it doesn't even matter anyways because Rock Slide misses, Gyarados uses Hydro Pump, and from full health, without a critical hit, this knocks Geodude out. What that means is in order to be able to win, Rock Slide has to one-hit, or if it's a 2-hit, I'm going to have Lance miss a Hydro Pump. But luckily for me, Rock Slide has the damage range that it needs. Against the Dragonairs, I can finish both of them off with Earthquake. The Aerodactyl is going to hit me because it's very fast, but I resist all of its moves. I take a total of 8 hit points of damage, and then Rock Slide polishes it off. However, there is a flaw to my strategy because I am 2 speeds slower than the Dragonite. It moves first, hitting Blizzard, doing massive damage, but luckily for me, Geodude survives, hits Rock Slide, and it does enough damage to finish Dragonite off. Nice. I have made it to the champion. The strategy for the champion should be pretty obvious. Set up with Defense Curl so that I outspeed all of his Pokemon and deal more damage. This will also let me take less damage from the Sand Slash, and from there, I should be able to sweep. I've also added Rest to my moveset in the place of Body Slam because normal moves are not very useful here. Earthquake and Rock Slide gives me perfect coverage against his entire team. However, now what I need to talk about is the Sand Slash, because this thing is awful. I hate it so much. It is one of my least favorite NPC Pokemon to go up against. And in this case, it crits me first turn, taking Geodude down from green health all the way to red. So if it crits when I am not at full health, I am going to lose. Now, what is the chance that the Sand Slash crits? Well, it's roughly 13% because this thing isn't very fast. It has base 65 speed. However, the problem with what I'm doing is that every time I set up Defense Curl, I give it another chance to roll for the critical hit, so it finishes me off again in the second battle. Now, if you've watched a lot of my videos, I'm sure you will be familiar with getting stuck on this Sand Slash for a long time, where it just knocks you out over and over again. Then if you make it to the Alakazam, you get finished off by that thing. However, luckily for me today, I am able to finish off the Sand Slash in my next fight. With +4, I outspeed the remainder of his team. Earthquake 1 hits the Alakazam. I use Rock Slide on the Executor for another 1-hit. Magneton is obviously easy to finish off. Cloyster is next, and here I am really hoping that Rock Slide is going to knock it out. I have 4 badge boosts, and it's enough. Last is Flareon. This thing is trivial. Geodude knocks it out and clocks in with a time of 1 hour, 35 minutes, and 38 seconds, with 11 resets at level 80. This took an even 6 hours of game time. Alright, so let's put Rhyhorn's final results on screen. It got a time of 1 hour, 28 minutes, and 54 seconds with 4 resets at level 73, and it did this with a game time of 5 hours and 42 minutes. So the results Geodude earned in this playthrough are honestly pretty close to Rhyhorn. I think that in a second optimized playthrough, I might just be able to go faster. After all, a bunch of the resets from the first playthrough were all preventable by just knowing where and when to train. So let's get into the second playthrough and see if Geodude can edge out Rhyhorn. The beginning of this run is identical to the previous one. I faced Brock at level 15 and take an easy victory over him. Now, of course, in the early game, I'm going to fight all of the trainers to get as much experience as is possible. However, I am going to make one small change. Both Mega Punch and Rock Throw are not very accurate, so on Nugget Bridge, I'm going to pick up Seismic Toss and put it in the place of Tackle. After all, this move deals damage based on your Pokemon's level, and in this case, since I am over-leveling Geodude, this move will be quite good during this section of the game. After defeating the rival in the SSN, I grind in Diglett's Tunnel. This is just to get as much speed stat experience as is possible so that Geodude can face Misty at level 36. However, this is still by no means a free win. I use Body Slam against the Staryu, it is a guaranteed one hit, and then for the Starmie, I am going to have to survive a single hit. In this case, it goes for Bubble Beam, its most terrifying move. However, at level 36, Geodude can survive. It hangs on with 2 hit points, strikes back with Earthquake, and defeats Misty. Okay, so the footage is going to jump ahead. I'm going to play like the rival in Pokemon Tower or something. This fight's not important. While I do that, I want to talk about the damage ranges against Misty. Her Bubble Beam only has a 34% chance to knock out Geodude. That is including the chance that it has to critical hit, so overall I am quite happy with that fight. Now let's check in with my splits up until this point to see how much time I have saved, if any. Well, to this point, Geodude is actually only 1 minute and 26 seconds ahead of its previous result. And that is pretty underwhelming considering I turn off encounters on certain routes during the early game for my second playthroughs. So that's one reason this result is disappointing to me. The other one is that I prevented 2 resets early on, and that should have saved more time. However, I do think that my mid-game strategy is going to be able to save Geodude a lot of time by the end of the game. So all hope is not lost. Geodude still might be able to beat Rhyhorn's time, however at this point it is not looking likely. After the rival, I have to face the Chandler in Pokemon Tower, and here you should notice that my Geodude has 1 more speed than it had previously. This is because when I went to the department store earlier, I used 6 Carbos on Geodude instead of 4, which is what I did in the first playthrough. The reason using these Carbos early on is okay is because I'm not going to make it to Pokemon Mansion to obtain that Carbos when Geodude can use it. That is because I'm going to be doing a lot of mid-game training. So let's go through as fast as is possible the details of this plan. Starting on Cycling Road, there are 2 routes here by the way, Route 16 and Route 17. On Route 16, which is the top portion, I fight every trainer, and then on Route 17, I intended to fight every trainer, but I missed one guy, he has a muck. Anyways, it doesn't really matter. Then I continue training on Route 15, where I defeat all but 1 trainer. I don't fight the girl behind the cut tree at the top. She just takes a little bit too much time to get to, and she only has 1 Pokemon, it's a Clefairy, so it doesn't give good experience yields. Also, to get to her, I would have to backtrack, which is not convenient because I continue my training onto Route 14. Here, I fight every single available trainer. So now, at long last, it is time to get prepared for some major battles. However, before I'm ready, I need to do a little bit more training in Sylph. In here, I'm going to fight 15 out of the available 24 trainers. While I do that, I want to draw your attention to the timer. Geodude is still under an hour of playtime. And when I wrap up this training, Geodude is level 55, and the timer is roughly 2 minutes over the hour. Now, being level 55 makes the rival in Sylph quite easy. There is one way that this fight can go wrong. I do not have a one-hit range on the Sand Slash, so it could use Sand Attack, which is very annoying. Also, Rock Slide can miss, and it does against the Cloyster, which means Aurora Beam lowers my attack, and now I do not have a one-hit against it. However, luckily for me, it does not go for Clamp, and I end up winning this battle. So now we're watching the Koga fight. The only way I lose here is if Rock Slide misses. If it doesn't, I have guaranteed 1 hits on all of his Pokemon. Also, I should mention that I fought the 2 additional Tamers in his gym, just for a little bit of experience. As I crush Blaine, I will mention that I fought all of the trainers in his gym. Geodude is now level 60 by the end of this fight. In Sabrina's gym, I fight a total of 4 optional trainers, and then I make my trip to the power plant. After that, in Erika's gym, I only fight the 1 mandatory trainer and then easily crush the Grass-type gym leader. And then in Viridian City Gym, I have fought 1 additional trainer, which gives Geodude level 62. And here is where Geodude is going to get its major time save. The clock right now is 1 hour and 14 minutes, and I am using all of my rare candies, taking Geodude up to level 73 before I face Giovanni. At this level, Geodude's Earthquake will one-hit every single one of his Pokemon with no turns of setup. However, there is one way that I can lose, and that is if Dugtrio uses Fissure and it hits. which is exactly what happens on the first turn. There is unfortunately no way around this. If I want to have a good time, I can't train more to outspeed the Dugtrio, and I can't use Defense Curl because it won't give enough of a boost to the speed stat to foil Fissure. So unfortunately for me, I have one reset by the time I defeat Giovanni. Now I think it's worth looking at the splits here because my second playthrough is 3 minutes and 8 seconds slower than my first playthrough beating Giovanni. So it is looking like my optimized playthrough is not that optimized. Maybe it's worse than my first playthrough. No, it's not. What do you expect? This is all according to the plan. My higher level should give me a very easy victory over the rival on Route 22, which is a spot where I bled time last time. And I can't believe I'm saying this, but Rockslide misses in the worst possible moment on the Cloister. It sets up Withdraw, allowing it to survive my next Rockslide, but luckily it just goes for Withdraw again, not using Clamp. Alright, so now let's sweep to an easy victory. However, unfortunately for me though, the Kadabra uses Psybeam, and it gets the 10% chance to confuse, and then Geodude hits itself way too much, allowing the Kadabra to finish it off. Honestly, that fight was really unlucky. It should have been a series of one-hits, and that's what happens in the next battle. Winning here takes Geodude up to level 74, and then using the rare candy from Victory Road, I can go up to level 75 before Lorelei. Remember in the first playthrough, I said level 78 was overkill? Yeah, I was right. Leveling more won't give me the one hit on the Slowbro, so I basically just need to avoid its Surf on the first turn. This is unfortunately the throw of a dice, so in the first battle I get a reset, but in the second battle I finish the Slowbro off, and from there if Jinx does not freeze, Geodude wins. The second member of the Elite Four is easy, as I mentioned before. Earthquake is super effective against all of the ghosts, and that brings me back to Lance. Now here I want to mention a small detail that I am very proud of. My Geodude has exactly 109 speed. Every single trainer and every single vitamin has been planned so that it moves first against the Gyarados and knocks it out in a single hit. Well, if Rock Slide actually hits, okay, Hydro Pump misses, so I get another chance to roll. I hit Rock Slide this time and finish it off. Okay, that was a little bit close. However, from here, the fight is much easier. There are two ways that I can lose here. Number one, the Dragonite could freeze with Blizzard, and number two, it could get a critical hit. But when those scenarios do not happen, I finish it off and move on to the champion. I wish there was a way I could improve my odds against the Sandslash, and there is. I can set up Defense Curl only 3 times, and then use Earthquake to knock it out in a single hit. Now this does have a disadvantage. My speed is just not quite high enough to go faster than the Alakazam, but I am speed tied. From here, things get much easier. I can heal on the Executor and sweep the rest of the Champions team. So, Geodude clocks in with a time of 1 hour, 23 minutes, and 7 seconds. With 3 resets at level 77, this is a game time of 5 hours and 24 minutes. So, Geodude did it! It is faster through Pokemon Yellow than Rhyhorn is. Honestly, I thought that the 5 less base speed was really going to be the deciding factor that would make Geodude worse. However, the deciding factor ends up being the fact that Geodude is the medium slow growth rate, whereas Rhyhorn is the slow growth rate. Getting it up to level 70 in order to beat Lorelei was just much more challenging than getting Geodude up to level 75. Okay, so with these results, what place does Geodude get in my tier list? Well, it has a time under 1 hour and 30 minutes, so it's going to earn itself a spot somewhere in the E tier. It is slower than Oddish and slightly faster than Goldeen and Pidgeotto. Here, I just want to mention poor Rhyhorn. I am hoping that Rhydon is going to be able to redeem that line, and by the way, I am doing that run later in the year, so stay tuned. Like, subscribe, and ring the chime echo so you're notified when that video comes out. I want to say a huge thanks to all my supporters on Patreon as well as through YouTube memberships. It means the world to me. And now, if you have made it this far, you are incredible. I'll see you in my next video. And here is a special treat for everyone who's stuck around. I'm going to fight Professor Oak. By the way, this fight is on the ROM, however there's no way to access it through conventional gameplay. You can glitch into this battle, but I've just added it to my ROM. One thing I should mention, I used to fight Mewtwo during my videos, but I've stopped doing that. The reason is that the Mewtwo fight is just not that interesting. It doesn't have any AI, so it just randomly chooses moves and you can always beat it. However, Oak does end up being a little bit more challenging, especially when he has 2 Pokemon that have 4 times damage against your Pokemon. In this case, he has Blastoise. It just goes for Withdraw, and I finish it off. But the following Gyarados moves first, hits Hydro Pump, gets a crit, and knocks Geodude out. Okay, because I'm leveling up at the beginning of this battle, I figured that setting up against the Arcanine was going to be the right choice, but then it burns me with Ember, cutting my attack stat. frustrating. As a result, I'm just not able to finish the Blastoise off. In the next battle against the Arcanine, after my first defense curl, I get hit by Leer, badge boosting me again. So I badge boost a third time and then knock it out. I figured this would give me the damage I needed against the Blastoise, but it just survives and hits Hydro Pump, finishing Geodude off. Okay, Arcanine, please just let me get more badge boosts than that. And in the next battle, it does. With my attack stat much higher, I finish the Blastoise off in a single hit, and the Gyarados. So, it was a little bit difficult, but in the end, Geodude was able to beat Oak.